Hi guys. Hey, it is Melanie and Matt, and we're back here on my Facebook page, and it is Business Tip Tuesday. So it is Tuesday, February the 14th. It is Valentine's Day. And we are doing this February sort of series on spouse support because that's probably the number one thing that people ask us about all the time is how did you get your husband on board with what you were doing in your business? And while it was sort of a messy 5 years, to say the least, I think we sort of have gotten a routine and a flow down. And so today, our goal is to talk to you guys about our time management, about where I went wrong at the beginning of my business, where maybe there was some misunderstanding or lack of communication, and what we have done to create just a better sort of synergy for our family. And I can't say that there is anything, there's no perfect scenario. I wouldn't say that we have the perfect life balance, right?
Right.
I mean, I would say you always say there's give and take in this business. It's not about, you're not gonna have this perfect life. You know, our business is non-traditional. We work at different hours, you know, and we have to be available when other people need us. So it's not your traditional 9 to 5 where you just shut it off and you leave your job. And I think that, you know, today that's what we're going to talk about is how to communicate that, how to get on the same page, how to set those boundaries. And if you guys are the one that is building the business, then hopefully this will give you sort of some guidance and feedback and maybe just some tips for where to go from here, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so we've got some questions here. So at the very beginning of my business, right? So in 2011 is when I started coaching. And in the first 6 months, if we could describe my time management at the beginning, what would we say?
There was none.
Yeah, I wrote that. Poor communication. There's nothing, right? I mean, we just had no time management. It was sort of me kind of doing my own thing. Matt didn't really know why I was coaching, right? He didn't know my goals. He didn't understand the business, right? He didn't understand what we were working towards or why we were doing this. And so if you could just sort of describe what our life looked like, what would you say our life looked like?
It was chaotic. We had the 2 kids and running around chasing them, her trying to be on the couch, trying to do her business, and, you know, working long hours. And like this point, like I said last week, we were just starting the one income fully.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stress, a lot of strain, a lot of unknowns, you know.
Yeah.
You know, because
well, Bryce was little. He was, 7 months old, and you were working full time, and I was building my business. So if you would say like our house was
disaster.
Our dishes were
everywhere.
Our laundry was
not in the laundry or in the drawers where it needed to be.
I was where?
On your computer or your phone.
Right. All 24/7. And what you said yesterday, I was like, if it wasn't important to me,
it wasn't getting done. It was, hey, I need this done today. Oh yeah, sure. Away it goes, and that went. Whatever I needed was out the back door.
Right. Time. What about my time? Was I?
You were not present.
Not on time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I think for me, I was so excited about coaching. I was so excited about starting this business. I had a fire. I was really excited, but it was sort of like the rest of the world stopped around me, and I became so engrossed in what I was doing that I let the things that mattered the most take a back seat in my life. And I would have these periods of guilt. And that is a really good indicator that you're off balance when you know you're spending too much time on the wrong things is when you feel guilty, right? You know, you feel guilty for not spending time. And so then you try to make up for it in other areas, and it just doesn't work. So, so Matt, what were some of the things that made you the most mad at the beginning when I was kind of just getting started?
It was, things weren't getting done. I mean, the house was a mess. The kids were running around like banshees. it was just like you come home and you just get hit like I was walking into a second job. It was, trying to figure out, where did she let off, or was the laundry half done? Was it not? Was dinner even started? Did she defrost meat? And it's like, well, are you cooking? Well, I'm kind of gonna, I'm gonna get there. And then a half hour later, after playing with the boys, you gonna start dinner? Oh yeah, I'm getting there. And at the beginning, she didn't have, this was a couple of years ago before she'd have an iPhone, so she'd be sitting there on her little phone, like pinging people and whatnot. So I was sitting there like, what are you doing and who are you talking to? Because I know you and you don't have that many friends, so it was a little confusing of, I know you want to do this, but let's put things in priority because, this is getting stressful.
And one of the things you said to me was, it was the unknown. Like, you didn't know what was going on. Can you talk a little bit to that?
I mean, it's, I'm not gonna lie, still to this day, sometimes I still don't know what she's really doing on her computer or her phone, but, coming in the door, she's on the phone talking to somebody, or she's doing this. So who's this? Well, you don't know him. Well, okay, well, all right, and she's typing away or, trying to create a post or doing something else and being creative, but to me, it's just she's on her phone or she's on her computer. And you walk by her the first time, you like smile, hey, and away you go. And then the second time you're like, what are you doing? And then the third time you're like, seriously, get your butt moving. Like I'm a mover. I don't stop. I'm always flying around, and it's like, let's go. And as it's like, yeah, I'll be off in a minute. I'll be off here. And then it was like, what she said she was doing, she wasn't doing, and then that starts to get very irritating, which.
Yeah, so I wasn't following a schedule. I was saying I'd be done with work at a certain time, and then an hour would go by, and I still wasn't done. I was doing team calls with my earbuds in, and Matt had no idea who I was talking to or who I was listening to on these team calls, and there was just a lot of like, I don't know what you're doing on the computer all day, and especially at the beginning when it's not like you're making a lot of money, when you're just trying to build your business, it's sort of like, hey, the number of hours you're putting in isn't really matching up with what you're doing. And a lot of that was like, I don't understand what you're doing on that computer all day long, right? All right, so the next thing is we sort of got to this point in the first year where it was, we sort of like let all of this stuff build up. And we were talking about this last night, and he was like, I would give you that look, that dirty look, and then you'd give me a dirty look. And that it was like we were walking on eggshells all the time. Is today going to be the day that he blows up at me because I've been on the computer or the laundry's not done? And I would always, literally, when Matt would pull into the garage and I would hear that garage door go up, I would like shove all my papers in a pile, and I would like pull the pots out and pretend like I was cooking, like I really did this. And I would throw all the laundry in a closet, and I tried to pretend like I had it together. And Matt's a smart guy. Like, he knew what was going on. He knew that I was sitting on that computer all day long and that I hadn't moved. So, it was getting to the point where it was just this constant friction and this constant buildup in between the two of us. And we got to a breaking point. It was about 10 months into the business, we had a huge blowout argument, and it was basically an ultimatum. You either choose me or you choose the business, because we can't keep living our life this way. It's not healthy. I don't even know who my wife is anymore. I don't spend any time with you. Every free second that we do have, your face is in your computer or in your phone, right? And that was an all-night discussion where we came to the bottom line where we decided, okay, Matt, you said, I don't want you to quit. I know how much you love your business. I know how much it brings you joy, but we can't go on like this. So what are we going to do that is going to make this run a little better? So what are some of the things what was our first attempt at time management?
Well, that was, the first time was we actually upgraded her phone to an iPhone, because that was going to be the saving grace of time management, which that actually added more frustration because it was easier for her to type in, easier to be on a lot longer. So that was like, all right, strike one in my face, because I went out, we spent the money to get it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, really, this is worse.
Yeah.
We did hire a cleaning lady once she started making enough money, just so at least every 2 weeks the house was getting clean, spotless. And there was time that she could work while somebody else was cleaning. I was like, sounds like a good idea. But
or it was one less stress we had to worry about too,
right.
you know, and I could be present with my kids instead of cleaning the house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What other things did we do?
You know, I started taking more of an approach of, okay, so if there's little things that I can do that aren't going to add additional stress to me, like if I have to make dinner once a week or twice a week or 3 times a week, we would start planning our weeks out to say, mm-hmm. you know, I have calls scheduled this day, this day, this day, and I'm like, well, I have work meetings here, here, and here. I don't know when I'm going to be home, so you have this, this, and this. And all of a sudden, like, I knew when I was coming home from work, at least I had the expectation set that, hey, I got to cook dinner. Or, you know what, before I left from work, I would pull something out, throw it in the refrigerator, so by the time I got home, it was defrosted, you know, and dinner's not taking an hour and a half to cook, it's taking 45 minutes to cook. So there's things that I started to help out with and just say, all right, you know, she's making sacrifices, you know, and this is going to be, you know, because I think with the big blowout fight too, we talked about a timeline that, you know, I'm going to give you X amount of more months that makes sure that this is going to be the right thing for us to make sure. If not, you're going to have to back down, and, you know, you can still have it as a side business, but it can't go that way. So, you know, it was a lot of give and takes.
And I worked really hard to prove that I could make it work. And I was making sure that I was focused on the right behaviors to actually grow my business. So I was also managing my own time in that when I was sitting down, I'm like, what are the most important behaviors that are going to grow my business? There was a sense of urgency there, and I was setting goals. And so one of the things that I did was I made sure I started working from a calendar. I started actually scheduling my work time in a calendar. I started to say to Matt, like, I have a team call on Monday night. I'm going to run Fit Club on Tuesday night. Or, you know, hey, I've got a coach that can only speak in the evening. I'm going to need to do a call, you know, in the evening. And then I was conscientious of the fact that we like to have family dinner together. So don't schedule something right at dinner time. So there were times where we got on the same page. We started talking about that a little bit more, and that helped. Me having set business hours made a big difference, and making sure that when it was work time, when we had a babysitter, because that was our first step, was to get a babysitter for a couple hours a week, so that I could get my work done. I wasn't grocery shopping. I wasn't out, you know, shopping for clothes. Like, I was sitting in my office with a to-do list, and I was getting actual work done that was building my business. So I was using my time appropriately.
And for me, when she set her schedule, and, you know, that she wasn't just sitting there scrolling Facebook or daydreaming or planning her next whatever, you know, room she wanted to decorate. It was more or less, all right, I know I have to get this and done, and she kept being very consistent with that. So I could tell a difference too, because it wasn't as much scrambling going on through those times.
Right. And then I also shared my goals, especially, you know, when I was pushing for a goal, like, babe, I'm going to go for elite this year. You know, these are going to be some of the sacrifices I'm going to have to make. Or when it was during qualification, like, hey, the next 6 weeks is going to be crazy, you know, because I got, you know, not going to plan anything on Wednesdays, because I know that's when I have to put out fires if there are fires. And so we began to sort of, honestly, it literally was just that open communication that we were not using before that was really important. And I will tell you, you know, there were certain days of the week where I would schedule shut-off time, where I would maybe check in from 9 to 9:30, and then we would watch TV, or we would have a glass of wine, and we just sit and we talk. Or, you know, the business is busy Sunday through Thursday, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday is sort of quieter. That's our time, you know, and when it's time to shut it off, it's time to shut it off. And that was something I struggled with. I would leave my ringer on, I would let the dinger keep going, or my computer would be up in the other room. And we know when that goes off, we just automatically go to our phones, we pick it up. So I started to, you know, mute all the notifications and turn off my messenger so that I wasn't getting messages, so that I could be present in the moment with the two of us. Because he would get annoyed because it would be our time together, but then I'm on my phone.
then husbands, when you're, a good thing that I figured out too was the beginning, you're like, oh, I'm doing this, this, and this. And I mean, most of us are like, we become bobbleheads. Okay, whatever. Because you don't understand and it's not making sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, once we started talking, I'm pushing for like, well, what's that mean? You're already working a ton now. What does that mean on top of this? Is this going to be more? Is this extra? Is this just more focus in areas?
Mm-hmm.
And then we would come to I would come to a better understanding and say, all right, okay, so this is going to be more here, here, and here, and this is going to be less here, here, and here. So ask questions. It doesn't hurt. Sometimes this stuff sounds, I remember sitting in the basement or in our dining room and her upline and her upline were sitting at a table making these dream boards, cutting out magazines of all this stuff. And I literally, for an hour and a half, had a great time. I had a drink in my hand making fun of each of them just because it was just like, this is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
And then probably every other month she was walking up to her dream board and crossing something off and say, haha, gotcha. And it was more of like a prove me wrong.
Yeah. And I was focused, I was very much so focused on moving. It was not just something fun I was doing. Like I really wanted to make this a real business. So I treated it like a business, and I found the ways to communicate. Like Matt said, didn't understand Elite. I started to talk to him. Well, this is what Elite is. This is what it could do for our family. This is where the extra income will help us, and so I started to be able to just talk about those things. The other thing too is I made sacrifices around my family. So for example, I would get up still on Saturdays and Sundays. So even when everybody else was sleeping, I would make the sacrifice. I would get up at my 5 or 6 o'clock and I would get 3 hours or 4 hours of work in before anybody got out of bed on a Saturday morning. And if the kids did get up, Matt was like, he would get up and take care of them and get them their breakfast and get them going so that we had the entire rest of... he didn't throw it at you. The entire rest of like Saturday and Sundays together as a family. And that, I don't know about you guys, but when I don't get my check-ins done and I know that there are people waiting for me and I feel like I have a duty to uphold with my challenge groups, that makes me anxious for the rest of the day. So when I get up and I get it done, then I know that it's out of the way. So that was something that helped me. The other thing too is just understanding the flow of Beachbody. So for husbands, what's the Beachbody work schedule? Like, you remember we said Sundays.
Oh yeah, but that's for us. But it's our work weeks are Sunday night at 6 is Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. She goes into work mode. You just see her change from mom into, all right, I know this is my time. And Sundays, I got baths, I got homework, I got the kids, which is fine. It's one of those things, and we just kind of hit that stride, and. Yeah. But by the time Thursday night at, typically 5 o'clock, it's done for the week. And then Friday, you work a little bit in the morning, and then it's typically your time, our time. And then Friday nights we do stuff. Saturdays we're busy. So it's, that kind of gets pushed to the side, but
and I get up in the morning and I do my stuff, but it doesn't really interfere with our family, and it's quiet. You have to look at your social media trends and say, all right, if nobody's online, you don't need to be sitting on your phone just scrolling, and that was something else too that our kids and our spouses don't know the difference of us being on our phone and working and being on our phone and playing. So I would sometimes find myself saying, I'm just sitting down here and I want to just scroll Pinterest because I wanted Matt to know like I wasn't working. Like this was downtime for me. But our kids don't know that. Our spouses, they just think, oh, well, mommy's working again, or oh, she's working again, she's on her phone. So I just got in the habit of not scrolling Facebook. When it's time to be present, I just don't even put my phone in my hand because there's that boundary isn't there because of the way our business is run. I just need to get rid of it altogether. So I will say the unplugging didn't come easy. It was something that took me a good year to get under control. I did everything from shutting off my phone, leaving my phone at home, completely turning it off. It was very hard for me to not respond right away, to know that it's okay if I let a couple of hours go by and I don't respond right away. So that was something that I did struggle with but I got there. And now I feel like because I worked at that so much, I'm really aware when other people do it and how rude it is when you sit down at the dinner table and everybody else is on their phone or nobody's having a conversation with each other and they're all staring at their phone. So I think for me, this process has made me more aware of kind of what our society is like and what they're becoming, right? So anyways, I know that our time management has not always been perfect. We put these things in place and then I get off balance, right? And every once in a while you'll say to me, you're bad again, like, come on, you're working a lot. Or, you know, every night, like that if he's sitting on the couch by himself, he's like, are you gonna come hang out with me? You know, so I will say every once in a while you have to give me a good gut check.
Yeah, and there's times too, Grace, she doesn't have a laptop that she uses most of the time, but you know, when she'd be like, all right, I'm coming. I'm like, all right. I would just walk over. I would shut the lid very nicely and say, you're done. Mm-hmm. And she knew that at that point, if she opens it up and keeps going, that's going to spark another battle. Because it's like, all right, you know, you got your 2-3 warnings of, hey, you got to, you know, wrap it up or whatever. And,
right.
You know, and she had to respect that too. Even if she was in the middle of a post or something, it was like, all right, you're done. Yeah. You know, or sometimes she's like, I need 2 more minutes. And, you know, but after I hear 2 more minutes 5 times, it's kind of pointless.
So I do think, I mean, the biggest thing is communication, right? I would say you've got to communicate your goals to your spouse and what those goals mean to them. How is that going to benefit your family, your life together? Then you have to communicate, what is that going to look like as far as sacrifice? What's going to be the responsibility of the other person? But then also you have to put yourself in their shoes sometimes too. What is it feeling like on the other end for that person, and how are they feeling? So it's a relationship. This is part of give and take of building a business that is a non-traditional business. I mean, think about it. If you owned a franchise, you might be gone all the time, right? If you owned a restaurant, you're gone every weekend, every evening. You're staffing. I mean, there's going to be fires you have to put out. Sometimes you're on call and you have to go into work. So this is really no different than any other business that you run. It's just that it is all through social media. It's a lot more virtual, and so that it's just more abstract. And I just think people don't necessarily understand that it's still exactly the same type of a business, right? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? What do you want to say to husbands out there that might be watching this? Anything on time management?
I would just say make sure you guys both understand goals, commitments, financial targets, things like that. I mean, those are good things to say, you know what, I'm going to pay the credit card off, or we're going to put something else down on this, or the money you're saving is going to go into a fund for the kids. So, you know, it's not just going to go to waste, you know, or if it's paying just some other bills or whatever, it's a good thing you can just say, it's like, I'm going to take this bill, you know, and push for it, you know. You know, to me, like I said, if I'm more financial, which that's where my mind is, and I'm the one that does the bills and everything else, you know, if you walk up and say, I paid the credit card this month, that helps. I mean, that's just, it's a little burden off your chest. So talk about it. I mean, put numbers down and look at trends. I mean, you know, she doesn't look at that stuff, but give me a spreadsheet and I'll blow something up real quick and just say, all right, if you're on pace and track to do this, you should be here. Right. You know, that's going to change here. So the conversation sometimes might be not about as valuable to her, but you know, we still have them. I mean, I can make her brain spin just as much as she makes my brain spin on social media with numbers. So, you know, talk about them, put goals, and some stretch, some realistic, some are just like meets expectations or beats it. You know, it's kind of fun, and let them go and play and try to really figure this out and do it, because it's what it is. Yeah. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of perspective, that it's not easy. And I think sometimes, you know, maybe other coaches that have been in the business for a while make this whole relationship, building a business together, just look like seamless, and that there weren't any issues. And it is just like anything. You have a growth process in your relationships and in your business. And so, no, it hasn't been perfect. No, it was kind of icky there for a little while, and we really struggled. But we were willing to work together, and we were willing to give and take. And if you can do that,
with your spouse, and you can get on the same page. You can get them to events, get them to understand the business. Like we said last week, like read what Beachbody's about, do your research, and I promise you, you can overcome some of these obstacles that you maybe are going through right now. So anyways, guys, we appreciate you spending some time with us today. Next week, we're going to be kind of talking about what our life is like now. And what we've been able to do because of Beachbody, and maybe what our time management now looks like, and some of the roles and responsibilities that Matt has taken on in the last few years now that our business has really taken off. So just to kind of give you that perspective, again, if you have specific questions that you want Matt and I to answer, please send them to mjmitro@gmail.com, or you can send me a message right here through my Melanie Mitro Facebook page, and I will put those on the list because we are going to do a Q&A session here before the month is over. All right. So anyways, thanks so much for tuning in for week 2, and we will see you guys next week, next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye, guys.